Hey everyone, it's your buddy Crypto Profit back with another video, and today we're going to be taking a look at AMP as it continues to drop closer and closer to 8 cents, down 13.44% in the last 24 hours alone. This coin is one of those coins that has been struggling very recently after these listings on Coinbase and Bitmart. So big things to talk about today in our information and news segment of AMP, but I do want to talk about the price prediction as well at the end of the video because there is a lot to mention and talk about. Obviously, a lot of people worried about where AMP is headed. I've talked about this in the previous videos as you don't really want to buy in the green, and we are continuing to see this green increase, obviously all the way up to about 12 cents. We saw a nice increase here to 12.3 cents, and then drop back down to about 9 cents and increased all the way up to close to 12 cents yet again, and now we're seeing a massive drop. Obviously, the market is struggling right now, so we can't hold it all against AMP. But if we take a look at the actual market itself real quick, the market's down only 4.02%. So really the market is not struggling near as hard as AMP is. Realistically, we are seeing AMP struggle, like I said, a lot harder at 13.44% decrease. If we do a quick refresh, we are still seeing that 13.44. If we take a look at the last week, though, we are still seeing a 17% increase. In the last week, about 50% increase. So still very big and good things coming to AMP. I think it's still a coin worth looking into. Do I think it's worth buying right now? That's the question that we will be answering and talking more about at the end of the video. So let's jump into what AMP is and talk about what the big news ahead of AMP is and really why AMP has continued to see big things in the last couple of weeks. So AMP is an Ethereum token that aims to collateralize payments on the Flexa network, making them instant and secure. If a BTC or ETH payment fails due to unconfirmed or long transaction times, the AMP collateral can instead be liquidated to cover losses, while the vendor receives payment and fiat, so potentially providing greater assurances to both parties. And we're going to jump straight into the first tweet. Obviously, AMP was now available on Coinbase. Definitely a big deal. AMP getting available on Coinbase definitely started to ramp up the price of AMP when this took place. As of Thursday, June 10th, AMP is available to buy and sell on Coinbase, and we saw, June 10th, right around this 0.0571. Then we saw a massive climb all the way up to 12, 13 cents. So massive increases from that Coinbase listing. We always see the Coinbase effect take place in a dip, or when the hype dies down from the effect of Coinbase listing. Usually we do see a massive dip. Thankfully, this time we did have something to kind of bounce back, and that was the Bitmart exchange actually listing AMP. Looks like June 17th, 10 a.m. EDT, trading available on Bitmart. So like I said, that kind of, fought back a little bit against that Coinbase effect of, usually a drop after AMP does make that all-time high. So we saw it go up to about 11.77, actually 12.3 if we look over here on the left. So then we saw it decrease, back down to 8 cents after that. And I think we are going to continue to see some problems occur with a lot of altcoins during the month of June. We talked about the month of June being a hard month on altcoins specifically. So it's a rough time to buy coins that are just pumped because of hype. And I will say there's a lot of value behind AMP because of what it's trying to accomplish. The utility is great. I really do love this coin. Unfortunately, I just think it was a little bit overvalued, and we're continuing to see it at an overvalued price at this current 8 cent mark. So we'll talk about where I think it's going to go, like I said, at the end of the video. But jumping into really what's making AMP do so well, in my opinion, are the AMP rewards and how you can earn them. So you can stake payments on Flexa, you can earn interest with Gemini, and you can learn AMP to earn AMP at Coinbase. So there's a great ways to really take advantage of AMP and get your really value out of the coin. So because of that, I think there is a lot of people jumping into AMP. The easy accessibility obviously, helps as well. When we talk about the accessibility of AMP, one thing to look at real quickly is this article talking about where to buy AMP crypto. Use these 7 exchanges. So there's obviously a lot of exchanges out there that are available to use and buy crypto, or sorry, not crypto, but AMP specifically. We see right here, Coinbase has recently started trading AMP, a very popular exchange option in the US, of course, with the Gemini partnership. One can also buy their AMP there. Outside of the major exchanges, there are still plenty of options. You have Uniswap, 1inch, Gate.io, Bittrex, and Phemex all support AMP as well. Obviously, we just talked about Bitmart as well being added. So continuing to add more and more exchanges and accessibility is definitely a big thing for the AMP, really AMP token altogether. We see Flexa is one of the largest companies trying to seamlessly integrate digital currency into the real-world transactions. The company has a host of apps through which users can store and really exchange their fiat currencies. So this is definitely, like I said, one of those big time coins that I think is going to continue to do very well. Unfortunately, I think it's going to have to come down before it goes up. And, some things must come down before they go back up. And we've talked about that before, obviously, with the month of June being what it is, a rough month for altcoins specifically. If we take a look at the last week, we do see a 17.34% increase. I do expect AMP to actually drop maybe down to a 6 to 7 cent price point. And I've talked about this in the last 2 AMP videos, a 6 to 7 cent price point, maybe even 5 cents before we see some, jump back up. And I think realistically, we do need this to continue to see AMP do well. The market cap is just a little bit too high, in my opinion, right now with what AMP is. It's a safety and security token. If you look in the prices right now, if you look in the Coinbase listings, none of these are really safety and security tokens. For the most part, they're really just, different utility-based tokens, but AMP is something much different. So the fact that it was able to jump up that high up, being in the, top 30 of assets, top 30 market cap, it's pretty special. And I think AMP's going to continue to do very, very well. But if you take a look at the number 2 page, you can actually see that there's some solid coins on page 2 that really, I think, will pass AMP in the upcoming days ahead. So I think AMP is going to drop down, like I said, 5 to 6 to even 7 cents. So we'll see what happens there. I think, like I said, there's going to be a drop before we see an increase. And we'll talk about price predictions now for the end of July and really the end of the bull market as well here in just a second. I do want to jump back into this tweet here. So AMP can collateralize any type of asset transfer, whether digital or physical. Today, AMP is providing the collateral for instant fraud-proof transactions made using more than 25 different digital assets. So that's a big amount of assets that really has an opportunity to utilize AMP. But I think the utilization behind AMP is special, and that's exactly why I think there is going to be a future in AMP. I think there's going to be a great amount of people really looking forward to what AMP has to offer, and I think because of that, we will see a great increase by the end of the year, by the end of the bull market. So let's start with our price predictions for July, since we kind of talked about June being a 5 to 6, 7 cent price point, potentially higher, but we'll see what happens. We'll continue to, like I always tell you guys, we'll continue to keep you up to date as we go through the month of June. Going into the end of July, though, I do think AMP is going to struggle still, sitting around about 8 to 9 cents at the best, and that's if we break out late July. Like I talked about a lot, we have a chance of breaking out of this accumulation FUD or manipulation stage late July. So I'm hoping that that does take place. And if we do take place, or if that does take place, I can't talk properly here, but if that does take place, I think AMP will actually push, around a 7 to 10 price point, 7 to 10 cents, that is. I don't think we're going to make it back to that 11 to 12 to 13 cents until the end of the bull market. At the end of the bull market, I think it's very possible that AMP actually rises up and pushes past its previous all-time high of about 12.3 and pushes closer and closer to, like I said, around a 20 to 25 cent price point is definitely still realistic. I think that's something that can happen. It's about a 3x from this current price. And like I said, I think that's definitely possible. I think we're going to have to come down to about 5 to 6 to 7 cents before we start on this increase, though. So just keep an eye on AMP. Make sure you're not investing what you can't afford to lose. Always do your own research before investing, as I'm not a financial advisor. I just thought this was definitely a coin worth looking into and talking about a little bit more, because this is, like I said, one of the only security and stability coins that's doing so well right now. And I think the cryptoverse needs more of these type of coins that really provide stability and security and safety to their users. So we'll see what happens in the future with AMP. We'll definitely keep you guys up to date. Like I said previously, if you guys want to stay up to date with AMP as well as so many other altcoins on the channel, make sure to quickly subscribe to the channel, turn notifications on, and like the video. I'll see you guys all in the next one.